I never thought the person who would destroy my life would be sitting across from me at Sunday dinner, smiling like she just won the lottery. My sister Lauren took another sip of wine, looked me straight in the eyes, and said the words that changed everything. "I used your identity for a loan, $100,000. The room went silent for exactly 3 seconds before my mother, Patricia, started laughing. "What can you do about it, Sarah? You can't even afford a lawyer." Lauren smirked, waiting for me to break down. Instead, I pulled out my phone and typed 6 words to my team. "Initiate fraud investigation. Send units." Outside, I heard the first engine. 3 weeks earlier, I was having coffee in my apartment in Boise, Idaho, when my phone buzzed. It was an alert from my bank. "Thank you for your recent loan approval. $100,000 has been deposited into the account ending in 7429. I stared at the screen, confused. I hadn't applied for any loan. My first thought was identity theft from some random criminal. It happens all the time in my line of work. I called the bank immediately and explained there must be a mistake. The customer service representative sounded concerned. "Everything looks legitimate here, ma'am. We have your application, your signature, your identification documents, all approved 4 days ago." My hands started shaking. Someone had stolen my identity. This wasn't just inconvenient. This was federal fraud. I asked her to email me copies of everything. When the documents arrived an hour later, I felt sick. The signature looked almost identical to mine. The identification was a driver's license with my name, but someone else wearing professional clothing who could pass for me from a distance. The application listed an address I recognized immediately: Lauren's apartment building in Spokane, Washington. No, I thought. Not her. We'd had our differences growing up. Mom always favored her, even though Lauren struggled with gambling and keeping jobs. But stealing my identity? That seemed impossible. I told myself it was a coincidence. Maybe someone else in that building. Maybe the address was randomly chosen. I needed more proof before I could even consider my own sister capable of something like this. I started investigating quietly. As a federal banking investigator for the past 9 years, I had access to tools most people don't. I pulled the email address used for the loan application. It was an old account Lauren had borrowed from me years ago when her own email got hacked. She never gave it back. I found it suspicious but not conclusive. Then I checked the phone number on the application. It was a burner phone activated 3 weeks before the loan was submitted and deactivated 2 days after approval. Smart. Whoever did this knew how to cover their tracks. But I still had one resource left: security cameras. I submitted a formal request to review the footage from the bank where the loan was processed. Since this was an active fraud case and I had the authority, the bank complied within 24 hours. I sat in my home office, pulled up the video file, and pressed play. The footage showed a woman walking into the bank wearing a navy blazer, carrying a leather briefcase. She approached the loan officer's desk confidently. The timestamp read, 9:15 in the morning on a Tuesday. When the woman turned her face toward the camera to sign documents, my heart stopped. It was Lauren, my own sister, wearing professional clothes I had never seen her in, smiling, chatting pleasantly with the loan officer, handing over a fake driver's license with my name on it. The loan officer never suspected a thing. I watched the entire 20-minute interaction 3 times, hoping I was wrong. Maybe it was someone who just looked like her. But no. The mole on her left cheek. The way she tucked her hair behind her right ear when she was nervous. The slight limp in her left leg from a childhood accident. It was definitely Lauren. I closed my laptop and sat in silence for an hour. My sister had planned this. She had created fake documents, studied my signature, walked into a bank, and committed federal identity theft fraud without hesitation. The betrayal cut deeper than anything I had ever experienced. We shared a childhood. I defended her when kids bullied her in school. I lent her money when she needed it. And this was how she repaid me. Part of me wanted to call her immediately and scream, demand an explanation, but another part, the investigator part, told me to wait. Gather all the evidence first. See how deep this went. So, I kept quiet. I didn't tell anyone in my family. I continued my research. I found the company that made the fake identification. They were part of a larger network the FBI had been monitoring for 2 years. Lauren had unknowingly connected herself to a federal criminal operation. A week passed, then 2. I built my case carefully. Every document, every transaction, every piece of evidence that proved Lauren had stolen $100,000 using my name. I kept hoping she would come clean on her own, maybe call me crying, confessing she made a terrible mistake, but she never did. Finally, I decided it was time to confront her. Not over the phone, face to face. I needed to see her reaction, needed to understand why. So, when Mom invited me to Sunday dinner at her house in Missoula, Montana, I accepted. Lauren would be there too. It was the perfect opportunity. I drove to my mother's house that Sunday afternoon with a folder of evidence in my passenger seat. My hands gripped the steering wheel tightly. I had rehearsed what I would say a dozen times. I thought maybe, just maybe, if I confronted her privately, we could resolve this within the family. She could return the money, apologize, get help for whatever drove her to this. I didn't want to destroy my sister's life. I just wanted justice and my identity back. When I pulled into the driveway, Lauren's new car was already parked there, a sleek silver sedan. I recognized the model. It cost around $30,000. My stomach turned. She had used my money to buy that car. I took a deep breath and walked inside. Mom greeted me at the door with a stiff hug. She always treated me differently than Lauren, colder, more distant. I never understood why. Lauren was in the kitchen, humming cheerfully while setting the table. She smiled when she saw me. "Hey, Sarah, glad you could make it." Her voice was light, casual, like nothing was wrong, like she hadn't just committed a federal crime using my name. We sat down for dinner. Pot roast, mashed potatoes, green beans, Mom's usual Sunday meal. The conversation started normally. Mom talked about her garden. Lauren mentioned she was thinking about taking a vacation. I stayed quiet, pushing food around my plate, waiting for the right moment. Then Lauren looked at me and said something that made my blood run cold. "So, Sarah, I have some exciting news. I came into some money recently, finally getting my life together." She grinned. Mom nodded approvingly. "That's wonderful, dear. You deserve it after everything you've been through." That was my opening. I put down my fork. "Came into some money?" I asked carefully. "How exactly?" Lauren's smile widened. She looked directly at me, and I saw something in her eyes I had never noticed before. Cruelty. "Let's just say I found a very reliable source." She laughed. Mom joined in. My heart was pounding, but I kept my voice steady. "What source, Lauren?" She leaned back in her chair, completely relaxed. "You know what, Sarah? I'm tired of playing games. I used your identity for a loan, $100,000. Her words hung in the air like poison. I stared at her, waiting for the punchline, waiting for her to say she was joking, but she just smiled wider. Mom set down her wine glass but didn't look surprised. She looked almost amused. I turned to her. "Mom, did you hear what she just said? She committed fraud. She stole my identity." Mom waved her hand dismissively. "Oh, Sarah, don't be so dramatic. Lauren needed the money. You have a good job. You'll be fine." I felt like I had been slapped. "You knew about this?" Mom shrugged. Lauren told me she was thinking about it a few months ago. I told her to do what she needed to do. You've always had everything easy, Sarah. Your sister deserves a chance too. Everything easy. I wanted to scream. I worked 2 jobs to pay for college. I studied every night while Lauren partied. I built my career from nothing, but in my mother's eyes, I was the fortunate one who should share whatever I had, even if it meant letting my sister commit crimes in my name. Lauren was watching me with that same cruel smile. What are you going to do about it, Sarah? Call the police? She laughed. You can't even afford a lawyer on your salary. Mom joined in again. That's right. What can you really do? Take your sister to court? Destroy this family over money? I raised you better than that? I looked at both of them. My mother, my sister, the 2 people who were supposed to love me unconditionally, and all I saw was contempt. Lauren leaned forward, enjoying my silence. Want to know what I did with your money? I bought that beautiful car outside, $30,000 fully loaded. Then I took a trip to Las Vegas. Lost about $20,000 at the tables, but it was worth it. Best weekend of my life, she continued. I bought a whole new wardrobe, designer clothes, $15,000 worth, shoes, handbags, everything I always wanted but could never afford. And the rest? I paid off my gambling debts. I owed some people who were getting impatient. Your excellent credit score saved my life, sis. Every word felt like a knife. She wasn't just admitting to fraud. She was bragging about it, flaunting it. She knew exactly what she had done and felt no remorse whatsoever. Mom nodded along like Lauren was describing a successful business venture instead of a federal crime. Then Lauren dropped another bomb. You know what's funny? I've been planning this for 6 months. 6 months, Sarah. I took your old documents from Mom's attic. Your birth certificate, your social security card. Remember when you stored all your stuff here after college? Mom let me go through everything. I practiced your signature for weeks. Got it perfect. Then I found someone who makes fake IDs. Cost me $2,000, but it was worth the investment. She pulled out her phone and showed me a photo. It was the fake driver's license. My name, her picture. Professionally done, almost impossible to distinguish from a real one. I had it made 3 months ago. Walked into that bank like I owned the place. The loan officer never suspected a thing. She approved everything in under an hour. Lauren set her phone down. I even opened 3 credit cards in your name, another $45,000. Did a little shopping spree online. You have great taste, by the way. Your credit limit was impressive. I felt the room spin. $145,000. The fraud was even bigger than I thought. She hadn't just stolen my identity once. She had systematically destroyed my credit, racked up debt I never agreed to, and used my name to fund her lifestyle for months. And you know the best part, Lauren continued. I even tried to get a mortgage in your name. A nice little house. Unfortunately, that one got rejected. Apparently, I needed more documentation. But hey, 3 out of 4 isn't bad. Mom was actually smiling. Lauren, you're so resourceful. I always knew you were smarter than people gave you credit for. I stared at my mother in disbelief. She was praising her for committing fraud against her other daughter. This was not just betrayal anymore. This was active hostility. Lauren picked up her wine glass. So, Sarah, here we are. You know everything now. What are you going to do? She took a slow sip. Sue me? With what money? Hire a lawyer? You make what? $60,000 a year after rent and bills? You've got nothing. She laughed. And even if you could afford it, do you really want to tear this family apart? Mom will never forgive you. Mom nodded firmly. She's right. If you make trouble for Lauren, you're no daughter of mine. We're family, Sarah. Family protects each other. not destroys each other over money. I looked at both of them, really looked at them, and I realized something I had been denying my whole life. They were not good people. My mother had played favorites my entire childhood, and I always made excuses. Lauren had been selfish and manipulative for years, and I always forgave her. But this was different. This was criminal. This was intentional harm. Lauren set her glass down and crossed her arms. Face it, sis. You're powerless here. You can't do anything. I win, you lose. That's just how life works. Mom raised her glass in a mock toast to Lauren for being smart enough to take what she deserved. They both laughed. The sound echoed through the dining room and something inside me snapped. Not into anger, into cold, calculated clarity. I reached into my purse, pulled out my phone, and started typing. Lauren watched me with amusement. "What are you doing? Texting your boyfriend to cry about it?" I didn't respond. I finished my message and hit send. Then I set my phone on the table and looked at both of them with an expression I reserved for suspects in interrogation rooms. "You made one critical mistake, Lauren." She rolled her eyes. "What mistake? Getting caught? You already know there's nothing you can do." I smiled slightly. "No. Your mistake was not knowing who I really am." She frowned. "What are you talking about? I've known you my whole life." Outside, I heard it. The low rumble of engines, multiple vehicles coming closer. Lauren glanced toward the window. "What's that?" The engines grew louder. Headlights flashed through the front windows. Red and blue lights began painting the walls. Lauren stood up, confused. "What's going on?" Mom went to the window and gasped. "There are cars everywhere. Police cars." "Not police," I corrected calmly. "Federal agents." Lauren's face went pale. "What?" The doorbell rang. Actually, it was more like pounding, heavy fists against wood. "Federal agents, open the door." Mom looked at me with panic. "Sarah, what did you do?" I stood up slowly. "I did my job." Lauren backed away from the table. "Your job? You work at a bank doing paperwork. What job?" The pounding continued. I walked to the front door and opened it. Standing there were two people I had worked with for years. Agent Michelle Carter, 37. Sharp eyes and sharper instincts. And Agent Michael Thompson, 41. Built like a linebacker but with a mind for financial crimes. Behind them were 6 more. Agents and 2 police officers for backup. Michelle looked at me. "Special Investigator Sarah, we're here as requested." Lauren's gasp behind me was audible. "Special Investigator?" I turned to face my sister. "Yes, Lauren, Special Investigator. I'm a federal banking investigator. Have been for 9 years. I don't work in a bank doing paperwork. I investigate financial fraud for the federal government, identity theft, money laundering, banking crimes. That's what I do." The room went silent except for the sound of agents filing into the house. Mom grabbed the wall for support. "You're what?" I kept my eyes on Lauren. "I work for the federal government investigating financial crimes. The reason I never told the family was for security purposes. Most of my cases involve organized crime. It's safer if people don't know what I really do. You and Mom just assumed I had a boring office job. I never corrected you." Lauren started shaking. "You're lying. This is a bluff." Michelle stepped forward. "She's not lying. Special Investigator Sarah Thompson has been with our division for 9 years. She has successfully closed over 100 cases involving banking fraud. She's one of our top investigators. When she reported your case 3 weeks ago, we took it very seriously." Michael added, "Especially when we realized the fake identification you used came from a supplier we've been tracking for 2 years. You just gave us the break we needed to take down an entire network." Lauren stumbled backward. "I didn't know. I just needed an ID. I found someone online." That someone, I said coldly, is part of a federal criminal organization that has defrauded over 300 people in the last 18 months alone. You connected yourself to them the moment you bought that fake license. Now you're not just facing identity theft charges. You're facing conspiracy to commit fraud with a known criminal enterprise. Mom found her voice. Sarah, you can't do this. She's your sister. I looked at her. She committed a federal crime, Mom. I gave her 3 weeks to come clean, 3 weeks to confess and maybe work something out. Instead, she bragged about it over dinner. She thought I was powerless. She was wrong. Lauren dropped to her knees. I'll give the money back. All of it. Please, Sarah. I made a mistake. Michelle pulled out handcuffs. A mistake is forgetting to pay a bill, Ms. Thompson. What you did was premeditated fraud. 6 months of planning, multiple crimes. We found evidence of the 3 credit cards, the attempted mortgage fraud, the fake identification. This isn't a mistake. This is a pattern of criminal behavior. No, no, no. Lauren was crying now. Mom, do something. Mom rushed toward me. Sarah, please. Think about the family. I shook my head. This stopped being private the moment Lauren involved a federal criminal network. The people who made her fake ID are dangerous. They've hurt people, ruined lives. We've been trying to find them for 2 years. Lauren just handed them to us. Michael was on his phone, coordinating with other teams. Boss, we have confirmation. The address Lauren gave us for the ID maker checked out. Teams are moving in now. Multiple locations. This is going to be big. I nodded. Lauren, you just helped us take down an organization responsible for millions of dollars in fraud. Unfortunately for you, that doesn't erase your crimes. It just adds to them. Agent Michelle read Lauren her rights. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. Lauren was sobbing uncontrollably. This can't be happening. This can't be real. Mom grabbed my arm. How can you do this? She's your sister. Your flesh and blood. I pulled my arm away gently but firmly. And I'm her sister. But when she decided to commit a federal crime using my identity, she stopped treating me like family. She treated me like a victim, like a tool, like someone whose life didn't matter as long as she got what she wanted. What about me? Mom demanded. What about our family reputation? People will talk. I'll be humiliated. I looked at her sadly. You chose to help her, Mom. You knew what she was planning and encouraged it. Right now, you're an accessory. If I wanted to, I could have you arrested too. Mom's face went white. You wouldn't dare. I wouldn't, I admitted, because despite everything, you're still my mother. But don't mistake my mercy for weakness. You made your choice. You chose Lauren over me, over right and wrong. You laughed when she told you what she did. You mocked me. So no, I won't have you arrested, but I'll never forget this. Michelle and Michael escorted Lauren toward the door. She was still crying, begging, pleading. Sarah, please. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. We can fix this. I didn't respond. There was nothing left to say. She made her choices. Now she had to face the consequences. As they put her in the back of the federal vehicle, Mom collapsed into a chair. What have you done? What have you done to this family? I picked up my purse. I didn't do this, Mom. Lauren did. And you helped her. This is not on me. This is on both of you. I walked toward the door. Michelle touched my shoulder. You okay? I nodded. I'll be. She squeezed gently. We'll need your full statement tomorrow. I know. Thank you for coming so quickly. She smiled slightly. For you. Always. Your family. Real family. I walked out of that house and didn't look back. The next morning, my phone started ringing at 6 a.m. It was Mom. I declined the call. She called again and again. By the time I got to work, I had 15 missed calls and 30 text messages, all from her, all saying the same things. How could you? You destroyed your sister. You're a terrible daughter. Answer me right now. I blocked her number and focused on work. But it didn't stop there. By noon, my extended family had found out. Uncle Robert, Mom's younger brother, called. Sarah, what's going on? Your mother is hysterical. She said you had Lauren arrested. I explained calmly. Lauren committed federal identity theft fraud. She stole $145,000 using my name. I'm a federal investigator. I did my job. He was silent for a moment. But she's family. Family forgives. I closed my eyes. Uncle Robert, if someone stole your identity, racked up massive debt in your name, and bragged about it, would you forgive them just because they're related to you? He hesitated. That's different. How? I asked. How is it different? He couldn't answer. The call ended awkwardly. Then Aunt Linda called. Then cousins I hadn't spoken to in years. All of them with the same message. You're tearing the family apart. You should have handled this privately. You're being selfish. By the end of the day, I felt completely isolated. The people I thought were my family had turned against me. Not because I did something wrong, but because I refused to let someone get away with a crime just because we shared DNA. But the worst was yet to come. Michelle called me into her office the next morning. Her expression was serious. We have a problem. I sat down. What kind of problem? She pulled up files on her computer. When we arrested Lauren, we also raided the organization that made her fake ID. We hit 5 locations simultaneously, arrested 13 people, seized over 2,000 fake documents. This is one of the biggest busts we've had in years. That sounds like good news, I said. Michelle nodded. It is, but there's a complication. The head of the organization got away, and now he's very unhappy. Why? Because Lauren is in custody. If she cooperates and testifies, the entire network collapses. Everyone goes to prison for decades, so they want her to stay quiet. I felt a chill. Are they threatening her? Michelle shook her head. Not her. You. She turned the monitor toward me. Someone sent these to our office this morning. On the screen were photos. Me leaving my apartment, walking to my car, getting coffee. Taken from a distance with a long lens. At the bottom of each photo was a message. Drop the case, or you'll regret it. My hands clenched. They're threatening a federal agent. Michael walked in. It gets worse. Your car was vandalized last night. Someone keyed the entire driver's side, deep scratches. And this morning, a brick was thrown through your living room window. Security footage shows a person in a mask. We can't identify them. I took a deep breath. So, they're escalating. Michelle nodded. We're putting you in protective custody. No, I said immediately. I'm not hiding. This is exactly what they want. Michael crossed his arms. Sarah, these people are dangerous. They've killed witnesses before. We can't take chances. I'll be careful, I promised. But I'm not backing down. If I hide, Lauren might think she can use this to her advantage. She might refuse to cooperate, hoping the charges get dropped. I need to stay visible, stay strong, show her that I'm not going anywhere. Michelle sighed. You're stubborn. It's one of your best and worst qualities. Over the next week, the threats continued. Anonymous text messages. You're making a mistake. Watch your back. Strange cars parked outside my apartment building. Once, I found a note taped to my door. Last warning. I reported everything to the team, but we couldn't trace the sources. These people were professionals. Then Mom did something that made everything worse. She hired a lawyer for Lauren, not just any lawyer, but Stephen Mitchell, one of the most expensive defense attorneys in the state, known for getting white-collar criminals reduced sentences or acquittals. I heard about it from Michelle. Your mother sold her house to pay for it. She's all in on defending Lauren. I felt a pang of sadness. Mom loved that house. She had lived there for 29 years, and she sold it to save the daughter who committed crimes while abandoning the daughter who was the victim. It hurt more than I wanted to admit. The lawyer reached out to me directly. Ms. Thompson, Stephen Mitchell called my office. I represent your sister Lauren. I'd like to discuss a possible resolution to this matter. I kept my voice professional. I'm not dropping the charges, if that's what you're asking. He chuckled. I'm simply suggesting that this situation might be a family misunderstanding rather than a criminal matter. Perhaps we can come to an agreement. There's no agreement, I said firmly. Your client committed federal fraud. The evidence is overwhelming. She'll face trial. He sighed. That's unfortunate. I was hoping we could avoid destroying your family over this. My family was destroyed the moment Lauren decided to commit a crime using my identity, I replied. This conversation is over. He called back the next day with a different approach. Ms. Thompson, I've spoken with your mother. She's willing to pay restitution in full if you agree to drop the charges. Think about what this will do to your relationship with your family. I laughed bitterly. My relationship with my family? They sided with the criminal over the victim. There's no relationship left to save. But it wasn't just the lawyer. Mom started a campaign. She called every relative, every family friend, everyone we knew. She told them I was being cruel, vindictive, that I was using my position to hurt Lauren out of jealousy. Some people believed her. I started getting messages from people I barely knew. You should forgive your sister. Family is everything. You're being heartless. The isolation was crushing. I went to work, came home, repeat. I stopped answering calls from numbers I didn't recognize. I avoided social media, where distant relatives were posting about the importance of family forgiveness. I felt utterly alone. Then, 2 weeks after Lauren's arrest, Mom sent me a letter. Not an email, not a text, a handwritten letter. In it, she wrote that if I didn't drop the charges, she would disown me completely. You'll no longer be my daughter. I'll tell everyone you're dead to me. Lauren made a mistake, but you're making a choice. Choose your career over your family and you lose us forever. I read the letter 3 times and then put it in a folder with all the other evidence because that letter proved something important. It proved that my mother cared more about protecting a criminal than supporting a victim. It proved that in her eyes I was expendable. And it proved that I was making the right choice, even if it was the hardest choice of my life. The preliminary hearing was scheduled for a Thursday morning. I arrived at the courthouse in Billings, Montana, early, dressed professionally, carrying my briefcase with all the evidence neatly organized. Lauren was already there with her lawyer, Mr. Mitchell. She looked different, thinner, tired. Her eyes were red from crying. When she saw me, she tried to approach. Sarah, please, we need to talk. Mr. Mitchell put a hand on her shoulder, stopping her. Not now, Lauren. I walked past them without a word and sat on the opposite side of the courtroom. Mom arrived a few minutes later. She sat directly behind Lauren. When our eyes met, I saw nothing but hatred. Pure, undiluted hatred. It was like looking at a stranger. The mother who raised me was gone. In her place was someone who blamed me for holding her favorite daughter accountable. The hearing began. The prosecutor laid out the charges. Identity theft, fraud, conspiracy with a criminal organization. The evidence was presented. Bank statements, security footage, the fake identification, Lauren's own confession at dinner. which I had recorded on my phone without them knowing. Mom gasped when she heard that. "You recorded us at a family dinner?" I didn't respond. The judge reviewed everything carefully. Mr. Mitchell tried to argue that this was a family dispute being blown out of proportion, that Lauren made a poor decision but didn't deserve federal charges. The prosecutor countered that Lauren had committed premeditated fraud involving multiple crimes over several months and connected herself to a dangerous criminal network. The judge was not sympathetic to the defense. "This is clearly a case of calculated criminal behavior. Bail is set at $50,000. Trial date will be set for 6 weeks from now. Court adjourned." Mom immediately stood up and posted bail using money from the house sale. Lauren was released within hours. During the lunch recess, I decided to go back to Mom's house. I needed to retrieve some documents I had stored there years ago, personal records, tax information, things I had left in the attic when I first moved out. I still had a key. I let myself in, went upstairs, and started searching through old boxes. That's when I found it. A small metal box hidden behind some holiday decorations. It was locked, but I recognized it. It was Mom's memory box. She used to keep important family documents there. I shouldn't have opened it, but something made me. Maybe instinct, maybe fate. I picked the simple lock and lifted the lid. Inside were old photos, baby pictures of Lauren and me, report cards, awards, and underneath all of that, a stack of letters. I pulled them out and started reading. My hands began to shake. These were letters from Boise State University, letters from 9 years ago, addressed to Lauren Thompson. "Congratulations, you have been awarded a full academic scholarship." I stared at the letter, confused. Lauren never went to college. She always said she wasn't smart enough, that only I got scholarships. I kept reading. There were 3 letters total. All scholarship offers, all full rides, all sent to our mother's address, all dated from the same year I received my scholarship. Lauren had been accepted. She had been offered the same opportunities I got, but she never knew. I went through more papers and found a notebook in Mom's handwriting. It was a journal. I flipped to the entries from 9 years ago. The ink was faded but readable. Today, I received scholarship letters for both girls, Sarah's and Lauren's, but I can only afford to support one of them through college, books, housing, living expenses. Even with scholarships, there are costs. I have to choose. My heart was pounding. I kept reading. I've decided to support Sarah. She has better grades, better test scores. She'll be more successful. Lauren is too flighty, too irresponsible. If I tell her about the scholarship, she'll just waste the opportunity. Better to let Sarah have it. I'll hide Lauren's letters. She doesn't need to know. I felt sick. Mom had deliberately hidden Lauren's scholarship offers. She had sabotaged her own daughter's future. And then, in later entries, I read something even worse. Lauren asked me today why Sarah got a scholarship and she didn't. I told her that Sarah worked harder, that Sarah was smarter, that the university only wanted Sarah. Lauren cried. She thinks Sarah took her spot. Good. Let her think that. It'll motivate her to try harder in other ways. Mom had lied. She had pitted us against each other. She made Lauren believe I had stolen opportunities from her when, in reality, Mom had stolen Lauren's opportunities and blamed me for it. For 9 years, Lauren had resented me for something I never did, for something Mom had orchestrated. I sat on the attic floor, surrounded by boxes and lies, and everything made sense. Lauren's bitterness, her jealousy, her willingness to hurt me. She genuinely believed I had taken everything from her, and Mom had encouraged that belief because it was easier than admitting what she had done. I took the letters and the journal and drove straight to the courthouse. I found Lauren in the hallway with Mr. Mitchell. "I need to talk to you alone." Mr. Mitchell frowned. "My client shouldn't speak with you without counsel present." "I'm not here as an investigator," I said quietly. "I'm here as your sister." Lauren looked at me with suspicion but nodded. We stepped into an empty conference room. I set the letters on the table. "You were accepted to college, Lauren. Full scholarships, 3 different schools, all 9 years ago." She stared at the papers like they might bite her. "What are you talking about?" I pushed them toward her. "Mom never told you. She hid these letters, made you think you weren't good enough, made you think I got opportunities you didn't. But that was a lie. You had the same chances I did. Mom just chose to hide them from you." Lauren picked up the letters with shaking hands. She read them slowly. Her face went from confusion to shock to devastation. "Why would she do this?" I showed her the journal entries. "Because she thought I would be more successful. She chose to invest in me and sabotage you. Then she made you believe it was my fault. She wanted you to resent me instead of her." Lauren dropped into a chair. All these years I thought you had everything and I had nothing. I thought you were the favorite, the golden child, and it was Mom." She looked up at me with tears streaming down her face. "You didn't know." I shook my head. "I had no idea she did this. I thought you just chose not to go to college. I thought you weren't interested." Lauren put her head in her hands. "I wanted to go so badly. I asked her every day if any letters came for me. She told me no. She told me I wasn't smart enough, that schools didn't want me. I believed her, and I hated you for succeeding where I failed." "But you didn't fail," I said gently. "You were never given the chance." We sat in silence for a long moment. Then Lauren spoke, her voice broken. "That doesn't excuse what I did to you." "I know," I replied. "But it explains it." She wiped her eyes. "Does it matter? I still committed fraud. I still ruined your credit, stole money. I'm still going to prison." I didn't know what to say, because she was right. Understanding the reason behind her actions didn't erase the actions themselves. I stood up. "I thought you deserved to know the truth." Lauren nodded slowly. "Thank you. That's more than I deserve from you." I left the room and walked back to my car. I sat in the driver's seat for 20 minutes, crying for the sister I could have had, the relationship we might have built if Mom hadn't poisoned it from the start. Crying for all the wasted years. That evening, I went to confront Mom at the hotel in Helena, Montana, where she was staying since selling the house. I knocked on her door. She opened it, saw me, and tried to slam it shut. I put my foot in the way. "We need to talk." She glared at me. "I have nothing to say to you." I held up the journal and letters. "But I have something to say to you." Her eyes widened. "Where did you get those?" "From your memory box, the one you thought was hidden forever." I stepped into the room. "You destroyed Lauren's future. You hid her scholarship letters. You lied to her, made her believe I took opportunities from her. And then, you let her hate me for 9 years." Mom's face hardened. "I did what I thought was best. You were the better investment. And I was right. Look at you now. Successful, independent. Lauren would have wasted that education." I laughed bitterly. "So you decided for her, took away her choice, turned her against me, and now you wonder why she became someone who commits fraud. You taught her that lying and manipulation are acceptable." "That's not fair," Mom snapped. "I raised both of you. I did my best." "Your best was sabotaging one daughter to benefit the other," I shot back. "Your best was creating a rivalry that didn't need to exist. Your best was letting Lauren believe a lie for a decade." Mom sat down heavily. What do you want from me, Sarah? An apology? Fine, I apologize. Will that make you feel better? I shook my head. I don't want your apology. I want you to understand what you did. You broke this family long before Lauren committed fraud. You planted the seeds of resentment and jealousy. And now you're angry at me for refusing to ignore the consequences. She looked away. Lauren's going to prison. That's on you. No, I said firmly. That's on Lauren for making the choice to commit a crime, and it's on you for creating an environment where she felt justified in hurting me. But it's not on me. I'm the victim here, not the villain. I turned to leave. Mom called after me. If you go through with this trial, I meant what I said in my letter. You're no longer my daughter. I stopped at the door but didn't turn around. Then I guess I never really was. I walked out and never went back. 3 weeks later, the trial began. The courtroom in Billings was packed. Federal fraud cases always drew attention, especially ones involving family. The prosecutor presented the evidence methodically. Every document, every transaction, every piece of proof that Lauren had committed deliberate, calculated fraud. The defense tried to paint Lauren as a troubled woman who made a desperate mistake. Mr. Mitchell brought up her lack of education, her financial struggles. He tried to make the jury sympathize. My client was driven to this by circumstances beyond her control. She's not a career criminal. She's a woman who made one terrible decision out of desperation. The prosecutor countered. This was not one decision. This was 6 months of planning, multiple crimes, fake identification, 3 credit cards, and attempted mortgage fraud. And when confronted, she showed no remorse. She bragged about her crimes. That's not desperation. That's arrogance. I testified on the second day. I explained how I discovered the fraud, how I investigated, how I gave Lauren 3 weeks to come clean before involving law enforcement. The defense tried to make me look vindictive. Is it true you recorded your family dinner without their knowledge? Mr. Mitchell asked. Yes, I replied calmly. As a federal investigator, when I have reasonable suspicion of a crime, I'm authorized to gather evidence. I suspected Lauren would confess when confronted. I was correct. He frowned. And you felt no hesitation about having your own sister arrested? I felt tremendous hesitation, I said. But my job is to uphold the law. Lauren committed federal crimes. If she were a stranger, you wouldn't question my actions. The fact that she's my sister doesn't give her immunity from consequences. The jury listened carefully. Some seemed sympathetic to Lauren. Others looked at her with disgust, especially when they heard the recording of her bragging about the fraud. The trial lasted 5 days. On the final day, the prosecutor brought in an expert from the FBI to explain the larger criminal network. Agent Michael Thompson took the stand. He explained how the organization Lauren connected with had defrauded over 300 people, how they created fake documents for criminals, how Lauren's arrest led to a massive bust that shut down operations in 4 states. Because of Ms. Lauren Thompson's connection to this network, we were able to dismantle an organization responsible for over $8 million in fraud. However, this doesn't absolve her of her crimes. It simply illustrates the scope of what she became involved in. The defense had no good response to that. Finally, Lauren took the stand. Mr. Mitchell coached her to appear remorseful. She cried, apologized, said she made terrible choices, and regretted everything. But when the prosecutor cross-examined her, the truth came out. Ms. Thompson, did you know that using someone else's identity to obtain a loan is a federal crime? Yes, she admitted quietly. And did you know that creating fake identification documents is also a federal crime? Yes. So, you knowingly committed these crimes, correct? She hesitated. I was desperate. That's not what I asked. Did you knowingly commit these crimes? Yes, she finally said. And when you confessed to your sister at dinner, did you express any remorse? No, she whispered. In fact, you bragged about it, correct? The prosecutor played the audio recording again. Lauren's voice filled the courtroom. I used your identity for a loan, $100,000. What are you going to do about it? The jury's faces hardened. Lauren tried to explain. I didn't think she would actually press charges. She's my sister. I thought she'd be angry but ultimately let it go. Family is supposed to protect each other. The prosecutor leaned forward. So, you believed your family relationship gave you permission to commit federal crimes without consequences? Lauren didn't answer. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. When they returned, the verdict was clear. Guilty on all counts. Identity theft, fraud, conspiracy. Lauren collapsed in her chair. Mom, sitting in the gallery, screamed, "This is wrong! This is so wrong!" The judge banged her gavel. Order in the court. Sentencing was set for 2 weeks later. When that day came, the judge looked at Lauren with disappointment. Ms. Thompson, you had every opportunity to make different choices. Instead, you chose to commit serious crimes against your own sister. You showed no remorse until you were caught. You attempted to justify your actions by blaming others. The court sentences you to 3 years in federal prison and full restitution of $145,000 to the victim. Lauren was led away in handcuffs. She was sobbing. Mom was crying in the gallery. Relatives who had shown up looked uncomfortable. Some seemed to finally understand the seriousness of what Lauren had done. Others still glared at me like I was the villain. I sat in the courtroom after everyone left. I should have felt victorious. Justice had been served, but I just felt empty. My sister was going to prison. My mother hated me. My family was destroyed. Yes, I had done the right thing, but it came at a cost I was still processing. As I gathered my things to leave, someone touched my shoulder. I turned. It was Lauren. She had asked the marshals for 1 minute. They stood nearby, watching carefully. Lauren's hands were cuffed in front of her. Her eyes were red and swollen. I need to tell you something as system. Something, she said quietly. What? I stared at her. Mom told me 6 months ago when I started planning this. She warned me to be careful because you work in federal banking. But I thought I was smarter than you. I thought I could get away with it because I'm your sister, and you wouldn't want to destroy the family. I felt like I had been punched. You knew? She nodded. I knew. And I did it anyway. I thought I could outsmart you. Use our relationship as protection. I was wrong. She looked down. I'm sorry, Sarah. Not sorry I got caught. Sorry for what I did. Sorry for hating you all those years for something that wasn't your fault. Sorry for being so stupid and selfish. It wasn't the eloquent apology I might have imagined, but it was honest. And that's all I could ask for. I didn't hug her. I didn't say I forgive you. I just said, thank you for saying that. She nodded. I deserve everything that's happening to me. I know that now. The marshals led her away. I watched her go, feeling a strange mix of sadness and relief. As I left the courthouse, Mom was waiting outside. She approached me, her face twisted with anger. Are you happy now? You destroyed your sister. You destroyed this family. You chose your career over us. I stopped and looked at her. Really looked at her. No, Mom. I chose justice over injustice. I chose truth over lies. And I chose self-respect over being a doormat for people who don't value me. You made me choose. Lauren made me choose. And I chose to stand up for myself. She stepped closer. If you walk away from us, you have no family. I smiled sadly. I had no family the moment you hid Lauren's scholarship letters 9 years ago. I had no family the moment you laughed when she confessed to fraud. I had no family the moment you told me you'd disown me for holding a criminal accountable. So I'm not losing anything I actually had. She raised her hand like she might slap me, then lowered it. You're making a mistake, Sarah. One day you'll regret this. Maybe, I said, but I'll regret it a lot less than I would regret letting myself be a victim forever. I walked to my car and drove away. Mom stood in the parking lot alone. 6 months passed. I moved to Boise, Idaho for a job promotion, senior investigator, more responsibility, better pay, a fresh start where no one knew about my family drama. I rented a small apartment with a view of the Boise River, decorated it exactly how I wanted. No compromises, no worries about what anyone else thought. The first few months were hard. I felt lonely, isolated. I had cut ties with most of my family, the ones who sided with Mom and Lauren, but a few relatives reached out quietly. Aunt Linda, my mother's older sister, called one evening. Sarah, I need to apologize. I didn't understand what really happened. Your mother told everyone her version, made you sound cruel. But I did some digging, talked to people. I know the truth now. I appreciated her honesty. It's okay, Aunt Linda. People believe what they want to believe. She sighed. No, it's not okay. You were the victim, and everyone treated you like the villain. That was wrong. I should have asked for your side of the story. Better late than never, I said gently. She told me that Mom was struggling, living in a small apartment in Great Falls, Montana, working part-time, bitter and angry. Lauren's in prison. You're gone. She has nothing left. And whose fault is that? I asked. She made her choices. Aunt Linda didn't argue. You're right. I just wanted you to know that some of us see things clearly now. If you ever need family, I'm here. It was a small comfort, but it mattered. Work became my focus. Threw myself into cases, helped shut down 2 more fraud rings, protected countless people from financial crimes. My team became my family. Michelle, Michael, and the others. They had my back in ways my blood relatives never did. One day, I received a letter from Lauren, forwarded through the federal prison system. I almost threw it away without reading, but curiosity won. I opened it. The handwriting was shaky. Dear Sarah, I know I have no right to write to you, no right to ask for anything, but I wanted you to know that I've been working on myself in here. I got my GED. I'm taking college courses through a prison program, learning about business and finance. Ironically, she continued, I've had a lot of time to think, to understand what I did and why. Mom visited once, spent the whole time talking about how unfair it is that I'm here, how you should have protected me. I told her to stop, told her this is my fault. She got angry and left. Hasn't been back since. I think she finally realized I'm not going to play the victim anymore. The letter went on. I know you probably don't want to hear from me. Maybe you threw this away without reading. But if you're reading this, I want to say again that I'm sorry. Not just for the fraud, for everything. For hating you, for blaming you, for wasting so many years being jealous of something that wasn't your fault. You deserved a better sister. I hope someday, maybe years from now, we can talk. Not to fix things. I know I broke them beyond repair, but just to talk, as 2 people who survived the same broken family. I set the letter down and stared out my window for a long time. Part of me wanted to write back immediately. Another part wanted to forget I ever received it. I compromised. I wrote a short response. Lauren, I received your letter. I appreciate your honesty. I'm not ready to have a relationship yet. Maybe someday. For now, focus on yourself. Get your education. Build a life you can be proud of. We both deserve better than what we grew up with. Take care, Sarah. I mailed it the next day and felt lighter somehow, like a small piece of weight had lifted. 2 years after the trial, Lauren was released early for good behavior. She called me. I answered. We talked for 10 minutes. It was awkward, stilted, but it was a start. We agreed to meet for coffee. I drove to a small cafe in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, neutral territory. Neither of us lived in Billings anymore. Lauren arrived looking different. Thinner. Older. Her hair was shorter. Her eyes clearer. She sat down across from me. "Thank you for coming," she said quietly. I nodded. "How are you doing?" She told me about her life. She had a job at a nonprofit in Spokane, helping people with financial literacy, teaching them how to avoid debt, how to protect themselves from fraud. "The irony isn't lost on me," she said with a sad smile. "I destroyed your finances, and now I help people protect theirs. But it feels right. Like maybe I can do some good after all the bad." We talked for an hour, not about the past, not about forgiveness, just about life, our jobs, small things. It wasn't comfortable. We weren't close, but it was civil, human. When we said goodbye, she looked at me. "I don't expect you to ever forgive me. What I did was unforgivable, but I want you to know that you were right about everything. You did the right thing. It took me a long time to see that, but you did." "I don't know if I forgive you," I said honestly, "but I don't hate you either." She nodded. "That's more than I deserve." We went our separate ways. I didn't know if we would meet again. Maybe we would. Maybe we wouldn't. But at least we had said what needed to be said. As for Mom, I never saw her again. I heard through Aunt Linda that she moved to Bismarck, North Dakota. Still bitter. Still blaming me. Some people never change. And that's okay. I learned that I don't need her approval or her love to be whole. My life now is peaceful. I have friends, colleagues who respect me, work that fulfills me. I wake up every day knowing I did the right thing, even when it was the hardest thing. I protected myself. I stood up for justice. I refused to be a victim just because someone shared my last name. The lessons I learned were painful but necessary. Family isn't always who you were born to. Sometimes, family is who chooses to stand with you when everything falls apart. Forgiveness isn't required for healing. You can move forward without forgiving people who haven't truly changed. And most importantly, doing the right thing is rarely the easy thing, but it's always worth it. I look back at that dinner where everything changed. Lauren bragging, Mom laughing, and I remember the cold clarity I felt when I sent that text. Initiate fraud investigation. It was the moment I chose myself, chose justice, chose dignity over dysfunction, and I would make that same choice again. To anyone watching this who has ever been betrayed by family, I want you to know something. You're not obligated to protect people who hurt you. You're not required to forgive unrepentant abusers. You don't owe loyalty to people who show you none. It's okay to walk away. It's okay to choose yourself. It's okay to demand better. Justice isn't cruel. Accountability isn't betrayal. Standing up for yourself isn't selfish. These are truths I wish I had known earlier, but I know them now, and I live by them every day. I'm Sarah. I'm a senior federal banking investigator. I'm a survivor, and I'm finally free. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever had to choose between family loyalty and doing what's right? How did you handle it? What would you have done in my situation? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button. It helps others find these stories and know they're not alone. Subscribe for more real-life stories about justice, accountability, and finding strength in impossible situations. Share this with someone who needs to hear that it's okay to stand up for themselves. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for understanding that sometimes the hardest choices are the right ones. And thank you for being part of a community that values truth over comfortable lies. I wish you all the courage to stand up for yourselves, the wisdom to know your worth, and the peace that comes from living with integrity. Take care of yourselves. You deserve it.